What's going on, everybody? This is Duga Art, and I'm back again with another tutorial. Today we're going to be doing a resin tutorial. I'm going to show you this start to finish, so let's jump right into it. Alright, first off, I'm going to start off by putting down my plastic. So as you see here in my hand, I have my plastic drop cloth. I'm going to put that down on the floor so that way I don't make a mess. I'm doing this on the floor, but you can do this on a table or whatever you feel is best for you. I'm just working with what I got, and my floor space is good for what I'm doing. Here I got my plastic cups. These are the small plastic cups, and I'm using these so that way I can put them down on the floor and sit my painting on top of them. Alright, so here we go. This is my setup. Not a whole lot. First thing is my gloves. Definitely always put on gloves when you're doing this. The stuff, you don't want it to get it all over your hands and things like that. So protect your hands, put on some gloves. Alright, gloves are on, and now we're going to move on to opening up the resin. Here I have resin from Pro Marine. It's Pro Marine epoxy resin, and I got this off of Amazon. I believe it was around $65 for a gallon, so it's a pretty good price. There's other epoxies on Amazon, like art resin and different brands. I chose to go with this one because it had pretty good reviews, and the price was where I wanted it to be, since this is my very first time trying to do this. So how you go about doing this is that you want to pour an equal amount into each cup, and I have 2 cups sitting here, and I already made a little line for where I wanted to my epoxy to stop at in each cup, and I just recommend doing that so that way you can see, visualize exactly where you want it to pour to, because you want to make sure you have an even amount in both cups of each one. And one of them is the epoxy, and then one of them is the hardener. So you need to have an equal amount of both in both of these cups. So right now you see me just pouring them in both cups. And making sure that they're both leveled off at the exact point that I want it to be. Alright, now we got everything poured in both of the cups, and now you see that I have both of them leveled off at the same amount. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, so you want to make sure that that's how you have it. See, now I'm now taking my 3rd cup of a plastic mixing bucket, and I'm pouring both the hardener and the epoxy into the bucket. And you see I'm using a stick. This is just a craft stick. You can buy these anywhere really, but I have a link in the description with all the materials that you need to do this project. But you can just scrape it all out and make sure you get everything out of the cup, because this is expensive, so you want to make sure that you're not wasting any materials. So scrape everything out, take your time, and do it right the first time so you don't have to do it twice. And I'm just getting the last bit out now, and after that, move those cups to the side, and then you want to just start stirring your mix together. Standing up here, just trying to stir it all together. You want to make sure you stir it very well, at least for 5 minutes. It's very important that you mix it very well. At first it's going to be a little cloudy when you start mixing it, and it's the more you mix, it's going to get clear again. And it's also going to have a lot of bubbles in it, but we'll take care of those bubbles later, so don't worry about that. But you want to make sure you mix it very, very well. This will actually make or break your project. Alright, now I'm positioning the painting down and just placing it where I want it so I can start my resin pour. So now I'm just fixing the cups underneath it so that way I can get that painting off of the floor and up in the air some, so that way I can do my pour correctly. Alright, now we have our painting position how we want it, and it's time to go ahead and pour the resin. Alright, so here we go. I'm pouring the resin down on the painting, and there's really no right or wrong way to do it. I'm just kind of going back and forth trying to cover the whole painting, and just pouring slowly and trying to get an even amount across the painting. I've seen other people just pour the whole thing in the center and then start to spread it out. So really it's a personal preference on how you want to do this. So it's totally up to you, but I'm just kind of pouring it around, all around the edges and everywhere, so I can try to get an even coat. So once I go ahead and spread it, it'll be easier for me. And make sure you just scrape all of that out again. I just want to emphasize that this product is expensive for most people, so you don't want to waste anything. So I'm just making sure I scrape everything out of my bucket before I go ahead and start spreading it. Alright, now it's time to move on to just spreading the epoxy resin across your painting. I'm using the same stick that I was using earlier to stir it to spread the epoxy across the painting. Really, you can start kind of from the center and kind of work your way out towards the edges. That's probably the best way to get everything spreaded evenly. You don't really have to worry too much about how you're creating grooves or whatever the case may be, because at the end of it all, it's gonna all level out. This is kind of self-leveling, so you just want to keep spreading it around until you cover all of the painting. Make sure that you're not skipping over any areas or missing any spots. So really take your time and spread it across the whole painting until you get all the way to the edge, and let it flow over the edge as well. You can always clean up those edges later, so don't worry too much that it's spilling too much all over the edges and things like that. You don't want to waste it, but at the same time you want to make sure you're fully covering your painting and you're not having any spots that you're going to see later. So as you can see, I'm just working my way to the edges now, and then I use my fingers to kind of just rub the sides to make sure that everything is smooth, and then I will rub underneath the painting as well, so that way there's no drips starting to form underneath it. And you want to do that a couple times actually as you're working on it, and maybe check on it like 30 minutes later, make sure there's no drips underneath it. If so, wipe them off again, so that way the underside doesn't have any of those drips. You can tape it as well, but I didn't tape mine. Afterwards, now you're gonna have your heat gun, or you can have a torch, whatever you have or you prefer. If you already have a heat gun, there's no point of going out and getting a torch. So I already had a heat gun, so I'm just using that to start popping the air bubbles. And this is very important because remember when we was mixing it, we had a lot of air bubbles, and now you want to pop all those bubbles so that way your epoxy, your resin just dries really smooth and really clear. So you take your time. I'm just going in a circular motion and just popping all the air bubbles. It's kind of hard to see it on camera, but when you're doing it, you can definitely see all those little bubbles popping as you go with it, hit it with the heat. So just take your time with this part because you really want to make sure you do this right, so that way your resin dries super clear and you can really have your painting pop. So just take your time and keep working it until you cover the whole area. Now I'm just touching up spots and making sure that everything was covered. You want to look over everything, step back, take a look at it and make sure that everything is looking good. Go around your edges one more time and take away those drips. And now our painting is complete. So just let it sit and give it some time to dry. It takes about 12 hours for you can touch it again, but about 48 hours to 72 hours for it to fully cure. So you really want to be careful with it in the meantime. Don't let any hair drop on it or dust, and have it just in a nice safe place, and you have a beautiful painting with the resin finish once you're done. This was definitely a dope project, and I appreciate all of y'all watching and following along. If you liked the video, please hit like and please subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more content coming soon. And for everybody who watched this, I appreciate it, and y'all have a good one. Peace out.